If you've been enjoying R4E, the Reason for Everything podcast, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. But where's home base for you right now?
I'm in Denver.
Okay. I just got back from Steamboat Springs myself. My first time out in Colorado. It was out of this world.
Shit. Love Steamboat. Yeah, I was just mountain biking the last 2 days with an Olympic snowboarder from Steamboat, Justin Ryder.
Nice.
Steamboat is an amazing, amazing town. I go there more in the summertime for mountain biking, but obviously great skiing too. But I love the restaurants there. Did you go to Laundry?
We didn't go to Laundry. We went to 8th Street Steakhouse and Del Mezcal, if you've been either of those places before.
I've been to 8th Street Steakhouse, yeah.
That was an interesting one. You go, make all your own food. It was a new experience. I was surprised we didn't have to sign any waivers or anything, but everyone enjoyed their food, so can't complain. But Eric, super appreciative of your time. Like I said, I want to start out in my earlier episodes. I started asking all my guests what their walk-up song would be for their metaphorical, time at the plate when they're stepping up. Songs to get them pumped up and excited. You've done 5 Ironmans. What's a song that you would listen to get you pumped up, excited as you're getting ready to get to the start line?
Yeah, great question. I mean, this might be controversial based on some of his statements of late, but I like Kanye West. I think his music is amazing. His new album that literally just came out a couple days ago, I've been listening to on repeat. I just got back from a mountain bike ride and I was listening to the entire album. So from a get fired up standpoint, I probably listen to Kanye, Drake, some kind of hip hop. If I'm doing like a long endurance race though, or an endurance training session, oftentimes I'll listen to some kind of DJ set. I'll listen to Odessa, Rufus, something like that, where it's just a very melodic beat. And, I feel like this one song on repeat hack, it puts your mind in flow state where you don't really realize elapsed time and you don't have any cognition of how much time there is still to go. So that's often what I'll do is I'll put one song just on a loop. And man, for Leadville, that's what I did this past year. And it was just pure flow state the entire day.
I would play A Moment Apart, that whole album by Odessa, way back when I was studying in school for finals. And Inner Bloom's my current repeat song. It's total, stereotypical intro level Rufus type of music. But I can listen to that song for hours on end and be content every single time. And I want to talk about your point about, getting in flow. We were talking about this before we started filming. There's this almost counterintuitive idea of being a high performer, getting a lot of stuff done in a current day. You're a serial entrepreneur, brand creator, and we'll dive into that here in a second. But you're also very much, in flow, like you said, whether you're out mountain biking or, building these brands, creating on a daily basis. How does someone like yourself, how do you balance the rigidity of keeping on schedule, having a lot on your plate, being a jack of many trades, while also trying to get into flow state and really focus on specific things at a certain time?
Yeah, so a couple things. Time blocking is something that I've done for a very long time. So in my calendar, there are certain times when I do certain things, and a lot of the day is built around exercise. I feel like exercise provides me with the most mental clarity, the most energy, me being the best version of myself. So that's how I can show up when I'm on podcasts or on brand calls. So exercise is prioritized. I very rarely let anything get in the way of exercise, at least one session, typically 2 sessions. And then all of my calls, all of my podcasts, they're all time blocked during certain times. So I can be completely present. If I was taking calls while I was mountain biking, I would be annoyed. If I was taking calls while I was in the gym trying to hit my CrossFit training, I would be annoyed. I wouldn't be giving my full presence. So I generally do calls during certain blocks, and creative tasks also I'll do during certain blocks. A lot of my creation is multitasking without multitasking. I'm shooting stuff while I'm at the gym. I'm shooting stuff while I'm out mountain biking. But just in the nature of out there being, I'm not going out of my way to do it. It's just documenting what I would be doing anyways. And then, weaving in various brands I work with into that content. So it's authentic to me, authentic to the brand, and, authentic to my audience. And then my sauna sessions at night are typically where I take in-person meetings. So someone reaches out to me on social media. I invite them to come over to the house and sauna. And I know that's where we'll probably have the very best conversation. You're in this small box with temperature at 200 degrees, which kind of narrows everyone's aperture and makes everyone vulnerable really quick. So I like to do things in settings where it allows for like the best possible outcome of whatever you're trying to achieve. And obviously with those sauna sessions, I'm getting the physical benefits, the mental benefits, the emotional benefits, building my immune system. So again, it's one of these activities where I could do a million things for recovery from 5 to 6:15, but I can stack all of these other things with that physical recovery that I want to get each day. So that's how I design my schedule, time blocked, and then where can I get the most bang for my buck? Instead of going to the gym and doing bicep curls, I'm thinking of everything as what is the complex lift I can do where I'm getting a bunch of different things just by doing one thing.
High ROI tasks, whether you're in the gym or creating or whatever it is, seems to be kind of the key for a lot of the high performers that I speak with is, you could, to your point, go and pump out a bunch of bicep curls, but you could also do a handful of complex lifts and get a better pump, better exercise, and also be more efficient with your time there too.
Exactly.
You talked about health, wellness, exercise. That's obviously your core domain at the center. That's how I came across your content. There's a ton of overlap for individuals that I've had on my podcast in the health and wellness space. I came across your profile through just, mutuals. And I saw one of your pinned posts about a picture of you when you were 27, 29, and then a picture of you at 40 something, 43. In my head, I always thought, you have your peak athletes. They say 27 to 32 is, peak performance for males. And then after that, I'm like, oh, that's just kind of when you settle into adulthood and dad bods and everything like that. I'd love for you to just maybe tee up your fitness journey and background for my audience in terms of how you got to where you are today. A little bit more about you weren't a health and wellness influencer by trade. You spent some time in software development. I'd love to learn more about that pivot as well. But what was your health and wellness journey like growing up? Was it existent even at all? What was that kind of background like for you?
Yeah, so I played 3 sports in high school. I was the most athletic in my high school, voted that my junior and senior year. I played basketball, I ran cross country, I ran track, I played little league and senior league baseball. I played 1 year of football. So I played all the sports. I was athletic growing up for sure. In college, I got into weightlifting and it was very vanity based. I just wanted to look good on spring break. So big chest, big biceps. Funny story, when I got to college, in high school, all I did was bench press and push-ups. That's kind of what I thought weightlifting was. I didn't have much of an education around, lifting. So I get to college and I go to the college gym every single day and I do bench press and I do push-ups. And this dude, Ian, comes up to me and he's like, do you bench press every single day? I'm like, yeah. What do you do? And he's like, no, you do bis and tris one day, and you do back one day, and you do chest one day. Never legs, never functional lifts. But he introduced me to variety. So I started doing some different exercises when I got to college. But again, didn't have any education around periodization, aerobic training, anaerobic training. I was literally just going into the gym, putting on heavy weight, trying to have a big chest, big shoulders, and big biceps. So after college, in my first career, which was property and casualty insurance, I was driving 50,000 miles a year, sitting in a car. I thought Subway was the healthiest option for me when I was on the road. It was better than Pizza Hut. So, I got kind of fat in my early and mid 20s, and I was also drinking heavily. That started in college, where I always enjoyed entertaining and leaving people with an experience. And in high school, that was, friends coming and playing basketball in my parents' backyard and playing ping pong. In college, it was throwing the biggest parties. So after college, I continued with that of like, I want to be the party guy. I want to be the life of the party. And I want to get 100 people in my condo and throw these massive parties. So the drinking did not help anything. Obviously, it was lots of extra calories. It was inflammatory and it massively affected my sleep and then my productivity the next day. So by my mid to late 20s, like right now I weigh 185, a pretty muscular 185. I was like 203 pounds. And, I had a gut. I did not look athletic whatsoever. I looked like a guy who ate pizza and drank beer. So I think when I was around 27, 28, I hired a personal trainer. And about 6 months into having the personal trainer, I started to lean out a bit. I probably lost 15 pounds and started putting on muscle. And he had me doing CrossFit before CrossFit was a thing. So this was back in, 2006, 2007. And, I was basically lifting moderately heavy weights, doing complex lifts, and then I would run around this track or do rowing intervals in between the sets. So, basically lifting weights with my heart rate elevated, which is a lot of what CrossFit is. And, I started seeing results. But it was also during that time period where I started making the correlation between energy and exercise, mental clarity and exercise. I was just becoming, I didn't need alcohol anymore to fuel vulnerability. I just felt like I could be vulnerable because I had this sense of well-being from the exercise. And then when I turned maybe 28, so 2008, 2009, I bought a bike and started biking, started running again. And several of my friends were doing a half Ironman. It was the inaugural half Ironman in Syracuse, New York, which is where I grew up. And they told me what it was, and I'm like, "You're gonna run a half marathon after biking 56 miles and swimming 1.2 miles? I've never swam a lap in a pool. I've never run more than maybe 5 miles. And most of the time in cross country practice in high school, when it was a 5 or 6 mile run, we would run a half mile to my friend's house and play video games, and then run a half mile back and tell the coach we ran 5 miles." Um, and and then run a marathon after biking 56 miles. I'm like, what? That sounds insane. So I'm like, I'm interested. I signed up for a sprint distance triathlon and almost drowned in the swim. Passed a bunch of people on the bike, passed a bunch of people on the run, and ended up coming in third in my age group in a very small local triathlon. But it was empowering enough for me to be like, I think I can be kind of good at this. And like, it was hard, but I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the training for it. So that was really what set me on the journey of where I am today. That sprint distance triathlon led to an Olympic distance triathlon that led me to hiring a coach who was one of the best triathletes in central New York. And under his guidance, I started doing half Ironmans, and then my first full Ironman, Lake Placid, 2012. I missed qualifying for the World Championships by one place in 1 minute. The guy who got the final spot, he passed me at mile 25 on the run, and I didn't know it at the time, other than seeing the age on his leg and wondering if that was the final spot to Kona. Sure enough, it was. And then the following 2 years, qualified for Kona, raced against the best of the world in the World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. And yeah, I was one of the top 25 amateurs in the world during those years. And it really showed me that you can be world class in anything if you dedicate, 3, 4, 5 years to one thing, and you just put blinders on. You have someone who's gotten where you want to go, and you follow a process to get there. So those years were very, very formative for me. And I also had a lot of time alone with my heart rate elevated, and I was able to start conceptualizing what I wanted my life to be like. And I realized that exercise was making me the best version of myself. And I started to wonder why I was constantly chasing more money if exercise, what was really fueling fulfillment. So ultimately, where I am now today, I still train high volume. I'm looking to get to the CrossFit Games in my age group. I'm 43 years old now. I still mountain bike. I do Leadville each year, mountain bike race. My time is getting better. My strength numbers are still going up. Am I as fast as I once was with Ironman? No, but I don't dedicate myself to 30 hours a week of Ironman training. I think at 43, I'm the most well-rounded I've ever been. Am I the most athletic? Probably not. I would get crushed in basketball now. I don't have that same kind of speed and agility or jumping, but I am very strong. I have an engine, and I have an anaerobic engine, and I have a lot of knowledge around, how to train for those things, how to eat for those things, and how to recover to be able to rinse and repeat and not feel smashed day in and day out, which is super important to me. And over the last 7 or 8 years, I've built my businesses around that, investing in wellness brands, creating content for wellness brands, consulting with wellness brands, raising money for wellness brands. And I've just built this host of services around people I want to help win and brands I want to help win. And, ultimately, I often preach now, relationships over transactions. That's super important to me. I want to feel really fulfilled in my personal life and my business life. So I want to make sure that all of these are relationship based and they're not just transactionary based.
You mentioned an interesting point around having a lot of time with your heart rate up. You have your blinders on, tunnel vision to getting better at these different athletic feats. You said at that point is when you really started envisioning what you wanted your future life to look like, exercise being at the core of that, money not being necessary if exercise is at the core of that. Outside of your kind of career and lifestyle revolving around fitness and exercise, what else were you thinking about in terms of, hey, where does Eric want to be at 43, 53, 73 as you were, going through those motions of having heart rate elevated and thinking about what the future life of yours is going to look like?
I honestly wasn't thinking tremendously about the future, and I still don't think tremendously about the future. I just focus on what is my perfect day now,
Mm.
and am I writing a chapter I want to be in, or am I just going through the motions and I'm not writing the chapter that I want to be writing? That's what I think about more. So, as I go through life now, I've been doing this long enough to know that I'm generating tons of opportunities just by doing what I'm doing, and freedom and flexibility to do the things I enjoy are super important to me. Being in an environment that allows me to be outside doing the things I enjoy, super important to me. Having enough time to interact with the people I want to interact with and being in an environment where those people are, super important to me. So I look at those things more so than where do I want to be at 53. I just kind of know that if I keep doing what I'm doing now, I'm probably going to be in a really good place at 53 just by doing what I'm doing now and constantly reassessing, am I living my perfect days and am I monetizing a portion of that, because we all need money to be able to, provide food, shelter for ourselves and others.
Building the perfect day. You write about this in Movement Memo, your newsletter. You've made some interesting posts about this as well. Stacking up the little wins in a day is something that you kind of preach about. What was maybe a little win of yours today that was notable for you? I know the key piece that you write about around connecting other people. I love that concept, and I try to do that with the guests that I've had on my show. There's so many great pieces of advice you have, even just as simple as being kind to others and that you're interacting with. How did you start to come up with a concept and framework around little wins stacking up to building a perfect day?
I just realized that, getting to the Ironman World Championships was awesome, but it was each day leading up that really was the fulfilling part of it. It was
Hmm.
the incremental progression towards that big goal that was really the rewarding journey. Getting to Kona and crossing the finish line, awesome, definitely. But if you didn't enjoy the process to get there, it's then what's the point? It's not fun, it's not rewarding, it's not fulfilling. So, that really became the framework for, I want to build my day around tiny wins. And the tiny wins I accomplished today are the same as what they typically are. I just finished a mountain bike ride. I was outside in Colorado for 80 minutes, mountain biking on the roads because it's still a little muddy and snowy here. But I got in that tiny win, which is get outside for at least 60 minutes with my heart rate elevated for aerobic training. I hired someone today. I hired a chief of staff, my good friend Bobby. So, I love surrounding myself with like-minded people, having engaging conversations with like-minded people, and, doing something for others that I know will provide tremendous, fulfillment for them. And by doing that, it provides tremendous fulfillment for me. I have some new people coming over to sauna tonight. So I often preach meet at least one new person every single day. So I have people coming over tonight that I'll meet for the first time. I'm getting in my sauna session tonight at 5 p.m. right when we get off this podcast. I try to make, and I think I made a very close to perfect espresso this morning, which is kind of that first tiny win each day.
Yep.
Talked to my girlfriend today. I saw my dog Blaze, who are in Florida. Tell them I love them. So tell, people that are close to you that you love them. That's super important to me. Plan an adventure. I didn't plan any adventures today, but I literally just got back from an adventure in Fruita, Colorado the last few days. I'm going skiing with friends on Friday, and then I leave for Austin on Sunday to host a founders only wellness retreat, which community is super important to me. I always preach, do something community oriented. So I have some massive community oriented things coming up next week when I'm in Austin. So those are some of them that I checked off, that I
Awesome.
lift heavy weights, do something anaerobic. I got my CrossFit workout in today. I lifted heavy weights. I went anaerobic in the Metcon. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm talking to you right now. So here's another example of an engaging conversation with someone new.
It's so awesome. I mean, it's so easy to lose. I always butcher the saying, lose sight of the forest in the trees or vice versa. But you think about, building this vision board, grand plan of what the next couple of years look like. But to your point, if you're, and Don Miguel Ruiz talks about this in the 4 Agreements, I talk about that on this podcast all the time, of do your best. If you just simply do your best in any moment of every day, stack up those little wins, do that every single day, you look back and you put together a handful of good days back to back.
Yeah, it
It's,
really comes down to compounding consistencies. I mean,
yep,
that is such an important theme in my life. It's not being remarkable occasionally. It's being consistently unremarkable. And by doing that, you're going to be remarkable. The best marathoners in the world, they're, if you saw their, most of their training days, it's not all that remarkable. They have some remarkable workouts where you're like, holy shit, how do they run that fast? But most of their days, you wouldn't really bat an eye at it. Just like most of my CrossFit training days, sure, it's a lot of volume, but I'm not going at some crazy intensity. I'm not maxing out every single day. I'm just kind of consistently being unremarkable. And it's the same with meeting people. It's not like, one day a week, I have 1,000 people on a Zoom call. It's like every day I meet 5 new people. And if you do that 365 days a year times 10 years, that's a lot of fucking people you're going to know. So it's just like consistently doing the same things I don't do. I don't watch any TV. I don't pay attention to the news. I have, very little time of just like sitting around twiddling my thumbs. So there are things I don't do that I would recommend not doing if you want to build your day around these compounding consistencies. But yeah, again, it's not being remarkable occasionally. It's being consistently
yep.
unremarkable.
It's so true. I mean, it's like the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. I mean, whether it's exercise, diet, relationship building, whatever it is, if you're doing well 80% of the time and 20% of the time, and you're keeping that 20% of the time really just bifurcated out, and you're really doing your best 80% of the time, it's still going to stack up, even if it's unremarkable, to a pretty remarkable outcome. And I think the sauna is the perfect example for that. I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. When I first got into the sauna game, and now I'm absolutely addicted to it. And days go by, if I don't do it, I kind of crave it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I first went, it was in the morning when they had just turned it on at the gym, and it was only like 165 or 170. And now it's, at this time of night, it's 200, and I can stay in there for 15, 20 minutes, which is probably still nothing compared to what you can do. But I remember when it was April of last year when I first went into the sauna, I was in there for a minute and I'm like, I'm going to collapse. This is horrible. This is the worst thing ever. And then now I'm like, all right, I gotta get out of here because I have other things I need to get done. And it's the same example with, if you can apply that same methodology, just a little bit, stacking up the small wins every single day, that now you can do 15, 20 minutes in. I don't know where I'll be, in April of this year, but long story short, I mean, it's just stacking up those small wins, being consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, just like these incremental improvements, it's so overlooked as, I mean, that's most of the people I know that are very successful. It was just like incremental improvements. And then, after 5 years of that, they have their lucky break, they
Yep.
meet that right person, they've been knocking on Whole Foods door for 5 years. And then all of a sudden they get in Whole Foods and now they're in all the Whole Foods. It was just from doing it consistently for a while. There's this guy, I haven't met him yet, but he's coming to our founders only retreat. He has a gum company and he is just documenting his journey right now of trying to get into Whole Foods, what he's doing every single day to try and get into Whole Foods. And I have no doubt that at some point he'll be in every single Whole Foods. So yeah, I mean, just like having that tunnel vision, focusing on it, doing the same things over and over again until you have that lucky break.
1,000%. I couldn't agree more. And all of the founders I talk with, even the ones that haven't had that big break yet, I feel like in someone in your position, I'm sure you see this all the time. There's just a kind of an intangible that's there that, even if they're only, a year into their journey of consistency to building it, what it is, it might be an app today, it might be a product, whatever it is, but whether it's that thing that they're building or it's the thing that's coming down the pike for them, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of having conviction, whatever they're going to do consistently, because you just know it's going to be good. To that end, you're a brand creator, you're a brand builder. That's what you're known for. You have some incredible partnerships and advisory roles. I want to talk about, and I've talked about this on a few shows recently, mechanically speaking, what was that like for you leaving your, corporate job in PNC and your app dev work? into being a health and wellness advisor, brand builder. Mechanically, what was that like transitioning to doing what you're doing full time? And really, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was really fortunate. My first career was property and casualty insurance. My father led me down that path. He managed a small mutual insurance company in upstate New York, that I watched him do while I was growing up. And the day I graduated from college, I got my property and casualty insurance license. And he gave me a company car, a small salary, and I started going door to door. And it took a good 2 years until I finally hit my stride. But when I did, I narrowed in on certain markets. I became an expert in campground insurance and marina insurance.
Hmm.
And, that's who I underwrote. That's, whose doors I was knocking on. And, I got name dropped once I started insuring a lot of those different businesses in New York. So, I mean, I did that for 7 years and built up a nice book of business that is still residual income. So I always tell young people getting into something, if you are picking something that you don't think is going to be the end all be all, try and find something where you're not just trading time for money. Try and find something where it's either residual income or you're building some kind of asset that you can sell down the road. So, I mean, that was instrumental, him giving me that opportunity to be able to have this passive income stream that then started enabling me to take risks. My first risk was a software company, co-founding that with a business partner back in 2008, 2009, and we were building mobile applications. We ended up partnering with 5 Syracuse University students who were brilliant with app design, web design, and it was a good 2 years in until we started paying ourselves. The first couple of years, we were just shelling out money, losing money. So, I mean, we had to stick with it for long enough to see the fruits of our labor. And that started doing well after a couple of years. I did that for 4 to 5 years and then sold my shares in that company, and then opened up a CrossFit gym, indoor cycling studio, hit studio with some business partners in Syracuse, New York. And then through that, I met my business partner in several restaurants that I co-owned. So those were passion projects. With each risk, you get better at taking risk. And that's
Hmm.
really what all of those different things taught me. And along the way, I picked up various skill sets. I had a front row seat to a lot of like VCs and private equity and software companies raising money. So I got to learn all about that from 2010 until 2014, being in the gym and being in the restaurants. And I wasn't running them. I was more of the marketing and, face of them. But I learned all about the hospitality business through those things. And we did raise some money for the restaurants, which, I had learned some of that from the software business. And being in two very public facing businesses, I learned a lot about selling public facing businesses. And now I'm a public facing business with a personal brand. So each business has kind of set me up for the next evolution. And I leverage all of those skills that I have from all of those different businesses now for my brand deals. And, I have this resume of this number next to my name that brands see. But when a brand works with me, they're like, oh, wow, you're way more than an influencer. You're an advisor, you're a marketing expert with CPG brands. You're very well connected in the wellness space and the investor space. So I try to, with everything I do, I want to provide massive return on investment for people I'm working with. And I've also learned over time, like where I can add value, what size companies, what types of companies, who I want to work with within it. So I'm careful about picking who I work with because I want it to be a fulfilling long-term relationship on both ends.
The point around for individuals early in their careers who know that the job they're going into isn't the end all be all, finding something that isn't just trading time for money, I think is such a great piece of advice, whether it's the insurance type role like you mentioned where you can build out that residual income down the road, or a ton of other ideas. That's where I love the idea of creating a personal brand and building out content. And that's really kind of a lot of what I'm doing at this platform here today, and talking to people like yourself who have done this. To that end, you obviously have a strong technical footprint building a app dev business right when the iPhone was launching and right when smartphones were becoming a thing. But from the time you started in the, you know, call it pre-influencer realm in the 2010s to now, social media has changed so much.
Mhm.
I know one of the kind of core tenets of your stacking up small wins each day is learning something from someone else, whether it's a podcast or book or what have you. how are you staying up to date with the latest and greatest trends to continue to be a strong face of the franchise for some of these brands as you're building out your partnerships and looking to continue to kind of grow that resume footprint number that brands might see when they come to your profile?
For sure. I mean, like I said earlier in the podcast, I just hired a friend, Bobby, who is my chief of staff as of today, and he is immersing himself in AI. He is learning everything about Chat GPT, how to write scripts, how to do newsletters from Chat GPT, how to find content that has historically done well for a personal brand or a company brand, and then how to recreate that content so it continues to perform well. I'm always surrounding myself with young people that understand things that I just can't comprehend at this point, because I'm just too in the weeds with, executing on contracts, and I'm on calls, so I just don't have the time to learn this stuff. I mean, my girlfriend and I, Sarah, we spent 2 months in Austin, November and December. And the whole point of that trip was to meet 10 new people every single day in the wellness space, in the media space, the people behind all of the creators, wellness investors. And I mean, we accomplished that. I think I met around 600 new people in Austin in 2 months. We are now building a place in Austin with the founder of Ice Barrel, Wyatt, with the intention of being there around 3 months out of the year, just to be in the mix of everything that is happening in Austin. So you are a product of your environment. If you want to fast track success, move to an environment where there's people that have gotten where you want to go. That is the only way to shortcut things. So I've learned that over time, like being in Colorado, it begs you to be outside. This is where the best endurance athletes are. So it's really easy to say, I'm doing Leadville this year and I'm training with 20 other people doing Leadville this year. Where you go to somewhere like Texas, they're like, Leadville, that sounds crazy. And I'm like, all my friends are doing it. It's not that crazy. But here, there's not as many movers and shakers in the creator space, the wellness space, the media space, and Austin is becoming the hub for that. So I want a presence there because I know by placing myself in that environment, these chance encounters with people I want to be around are going to happen.
There's a creator who's kind of in the health and wellness space, also in the kind of the business entrepreneurship space. Sahil Bloom, talked about him before on the show, who talks about increasing your luck surface area. And that's what you're doing by putting yourself into a place that you're just having a higher likelihood of running into someone, brushing shoulders with someone that might be where you want to be. I had David Meltzer on this show, and he talks about the best way to get to where you want to go is to ask someone who's already there to help you up. And to that end, he also says if you do ask someone to help you up to where they are, you also have to lend that hand back down and help someone get to where you are. To that end, you have an unbelievable mentorship program. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that and what that experience has been like for you. And then I'd also be curious on the other end of that, who are people you look up to and that you lean on for advisory as someone who is such a, influential advisor yourself. What about when, Eric needs help and advice? Obviously you have your new chief of staff, your buddy to help you out now, but when you're looking for help, who do you lean on for that? So I'd love to hear kind of both ends of that for you.
Sure. So I'm fortunate to say Sahil is a friend, and he is on my VIP list of someone who I reach out to on a monthly or bi-monthly basis to just chat shop, because he is someone who has gotten where I would like to go with a newsletter. And he is an expert with building these companies with others around like B2B plays, service provider plays. So I love interacting with him. I mean, he's a perfect example of, I can help him on the wellness and fitness side. He's inspired by my fitness journey and I'm inspired by his business journey. So, we both add value and we come together and we chat with each other. And someone like that, he's coming to my April founders only event in Minneapolis for Sauna Camp. So, people like that, I just invite into my circle on a regular basis, and I put reminders in to reach back out to them because our conversations are always so valuable and the sum is greater than the parts. From a mentorship standpoint, I mean, I try to give just as much as I get. I try to surround myself with people like Sahil, and Brian Mazza is a good friend, Devin LeVake, who is, doing incredible things in the wellness space, Jesse Itzler. So, those people are people that I can learn massively from. And then, I have people come over to sauna all the time that are messaging me on social media that are asking me about, how did you get where you are? And again, we get this dopamine hit from giving to others with no expectations, but knowing that they are benefiting from what we're giving. So it's just as much of a dopamine hit for me as it is for them getting, some kind of value out of the advice I'm sharing. And I feel like that's my favorite way to give. So, I invite those people in. I do lots of community events. I do these founders only events where I just kind of cultivate an atmosphere where people can converse with each other with their endorphins racing, and, they're bonding over discomfort of doing crazy hikes and jumping in cold streams and doing the hardest miles. So, I constantly am putting together these community events and creating these containers where people can meet each other. And I get a lot of joy from seeing people that I introduced become good friends and do business together and add value for each other. That's really fulfilling for me. So on the mentorship thing, I don't have any kind of formal program. I just say yes a lot.
In your world, in your domain, to your point, you met 600 people in your time in Austin. Are you using a CRM to keep track of all this? Do you have a spreadsheet? Do you have a team that you're leaning on for this, personal network, personal brand that you're building? Obviously, there's Instagram, LinkedIn, all social media to keep track of this. But how are you individually able to kind of keep track of this expansive network that's exponentially growing for someone like yourself?
Great question. It's in the works. Right now, I just use Apple in contacts. I use notes. So when I meet someone, I'll just write a bunch of notes. They own a CrossFit gym. They were a Navy SEAL. I met them on this wellness retreat. We chatted about this. They have 2 kids. Whatever we chatted about, I'll
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
into notes. I do have spreadsheets with different people, like people interested in investing in wellness brands. That's in one spreadsheet. Creators in one spreadsheet. All of my brand contacts in one spreadsheet. But Bobby is helping me with a lot of this. I am very good at creation and generating awareness. I'm not nearly as good at operations and systematizing things. He's great at that. So another example of like knowing where your strong suits are and hiring people that are way better at you than, and just focusing on your superpowers. Like, I know the things that I can do and I can do best. And I want to focus on them all day, every day. And I want to surround myself with people who can do all of these other things way better than I can do them, rather than me trying to figure it out.
So good. I've actually having the founder of a business called Clay on Friday. This guy Zach Hamad, he built this program. It was something that I was looking at building out of school, and it already kind of been there. They're putting it together. I don't know if you're familiar with the platform at all, but they tie
I
into
have a
Apple
call with
content.
them next week.
Oh, there you go. It's a small world there. So I met with them a couple of years ago. They're an incredible bunch, and I know they've just been grinding to get this platform built out, and the partnerships with Apple, as you know more than anyone else, are so kind
Mhm.
of complex and complicated. But I'm excited to see what this latest version of their product looks like, and it could be a good tool for someone like yourself who's kind of, like I said, a jack of many. To that end, I'm curious, as we're, almost 2 months into 2024 here. I've talked to a couple of folks about this. What are your predictions for the state of health and wellness this time in the year? What's going to be, obviously now sauna, cold plunge, that contrast therapy is pretty common layman's for a lot of people now, where it wasn't necessarily the case a few years ago. Where do you see, trends and forecasts going for the next year plus in the health and wellness space? What are you keeping your eye on?
I mean, I think one of the trends going forward is having like a Whoop or an Aura ring for for what's going on underneath the hood. So, we have these continuous glucose monitors now that can tell us blood sugar levels. I think the future is going to be things that can read all of our internal biomarkers in real time based on the activities we're doing, based on what we're consuming, based on our sleep, and then, recommending various supplements, peptides, hormones based on what is happening underneath the hood. I think that's a big trend going forward. Um, I think that community and just like close bonds with others is one of the most overlooked forms of wellness. COVID, I think, taught us that, where we were isolated and you saw these suicides just massively spike. So I think community, feeling like you're part of something, building things together, I mean, we're building this house together with our friend Wyatt in Austin. I want to do more of these wellness communes with people. I mean, we constantly have people at our house in the sauna and over for dinner, and I love it. Like, I love having people in the mix. I think it's so important to our well-being, feeling like we're part of something, and not just like watching TV and watching the news, like having conversations with people, learning from others, giving value, being vulnerable, being authentic. Like, all of these are massive forms of wellness. So it's not trendy, but I think that is something that we need to consider, as a major form of wellness. I'm just always amazed when I have people over to sauna who I deem to be living a great life, and they're like, I can't believe how much I needed that sauna session with 5 dudes, and that conversation that we had, that was magical. And I'm like, I mean, we do this every night. I'm like, you can come over anytime you want. Like, you can buy a sauna. You can do this yourself if you want to. But I think people just get caught up in their, day to day. And I get it that we're all juggling these glass balls that we can't drop. So, but I think that it's important to recognize how important, like team sports, how much fun was that when we were in high school and we played team sports? So just thinking back to being a kid again and like how important friendships are.
Yeah, I've got an intramural basketball game tonight. It's always the highlight. I do that in intramural softball. It's the highlight of my week, just for the sake of getting together with 10, 20 guys that are my friends, even like peripheral friends, but it's just fun to, be working towards, a common goal. I've talked about this on a few of my podcasts I've had. My big, silly idea, pie in the sky idea for the future of health and wellness. I think that group, fireplaces are going to be a thing, similar to saunas and ice baths, but something like you've seen the Russian ice houses in New York and other places, but something along the lines of, I don't know if it's going to be in a field type of situation or in some sort of warehouse or what it's going to be, but you're going to be able to go, my guess is you're going to be able to go rent out the same way you would a karaoke place, but go and rent out a campfire to sit around your friends with. And if people want to drink, they can bring drinks because that's their thing. They have s'mores, the whole 9 yards, because there's just something, I think there's something kind of primal and prehistoric about it. But I think that campfires are going to serve some sense of community in the future. That's my hot prediction for what the next couple of years look like in the space. So
I
don't hold me
agree.
to
I
it.
love that. I think that's awesome.
We'll see. But Eric, as we round out here, I'd love to give you a chance to just tee up anything you're most excited about in your portfolio, where people can get in touch with you, and any closing words for my audience.
Yeah, I mean, erichinman.com is my website. You can subscribe to my newsletter there, which have really been enjoying. Bobby helps me with the newsletter, but really been enjoying just getting longer form, story-based content out there. Instagram is just my name, Eric Hinman. And if anyone has questions around, entrepreneurship, around wellness, around diet recovery, happy to chat about it. And then what I'm most excited about are some of these founders only retreats coming up. Have one next week in Austin, 26th until the 28th, where 30 founders of wellness brands will be there, and just doing all of these fun workouts and doing lots of contrast therapy, and have speakers talking about growth marketing and how to raise money in this type of environment. The next one will be in April, the 8th until the 10th, and that'll be sauna and ice camp at this amazing property just outside of Minneapolis, where they have 6 to 8 wood burning saunas parked on the ice, and we cut holes in the ice, and you do contrast therapy in nature, wood burning sauna into jumping into a cold frozen lake. And then I'll be doing one in Denver in June, and then one in Palm Springs in October. Those are the ones that are planned out now. So super excited about those. I just, I love being around like-minded people, doing activities that are hard for everyone, but I know that these, incredibly close-knit bonds are going to form from the activities that we're doing and the people that are a part of it.
Have you done the Steamboat Hot Springs? I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah, Strawberry Hot Springs. I love it. I've done the hippie hot springs right in town, which is kind of the overlooked one. And then Strawberry is the more commercial one, but Strawberry Hot Springs is beautiful, especially this time of year where you can jump in the cold stream, the Yampa right next to it, and then go back into the hot springs. Steamboat is magical. I love Steamboat.
Yeah, we just did that last week. It was we did like the 9 o'clock, the latest one we could do, and it was free. I think it was like 5 degrees outside, and we were going from the 105 into the 60 into the Yampa. So it was wicked. But Eric, really appreciative of your time. Excited to link up here soon in person. Thanks so much for jumping on the podcast today.
You bet. Great chatting with you.